No, very
All
good.
right. So now I see some people coming into this webinar. So welcome to this occasion where we're going to speak today about the vertical journey. A very weird way of saying that Hatch and PFCLA can do everything together in one place. So we're going to discuss this today. We have the lovely Alex with us today. She will introduce herself a little bit later. And we're going to speak about a lot of hopefully interesting things. We know that you are all in different stages of this kind of journey of researching and doing all of that. Hopefully there's something for everybody at this webinar. I believe there is because I've been here for 3 years and still today I'm learning new stuff. So I'm sure we can all learn something new. As you enter now, you have the opportunity to ask questions. You are all anonymous here, not for me exactly or Alex, but for each other. So you can feel free to ask questions. There's a Q&A button somewhere on your screen, so don't be scared to use it. We'll do like a 30-minute presentation, more or less, and then we will have some questions. But if you have any questions while we go through everything, just pop them in there. We'll see them at the end, and we'll answer all of them, hopefully, for you. So feel free to do so. I see people are still coming in here, which is great. We're just going to give them another minute, but we can start with some introductions first. So let me open my screen, the scary part of making this work right. So I'm hoping that this is looking good. All right, so let's do a little bit of, and these are just a couple of lovely IPs from Hatch and PFCLA. I love these pictures to see kind of that joy in sparkle in the eyes of these IPs and surrogates. I don't know, especially this one always makes me a little bit extra emotional. I don't know why, because just kind of standing behind or next to the couple as like being a part of it, but it's still that couple's kind of core love that made that happen is an amazing thing. But I'm not going to cry today. I'll say that for another day. So let's shoot ahead. Okay, so today's schedule. We're going to talk about a couple of different things. We're going to do a short introduction, and then we're going to talk about Hatch and PFCLA, just a little bit short to give you some kind of information on who we are, what's our history, so you have that with you. Then we're going to talk about what we call the vertical journey. Basically, when we do everything in one place, agency and clinic, how does that work? What does that mean for timeline? What does that mean for who does what and the benefits of that vertical journey? We're going to speak about that a little bit as well. Then we're going to talk about our Peace of Mind program. So our Peace of Mind program is kind of what we derived from that vertical journey. When we do everything together, how can we create a program that includes everything for our intended parents so they have less worry, less stress, less of that kind of scariness of starting this very amazing, albeit sometimes a little bit scary journey of surrogacy and or egg donation and IVF. Then we will talk about our guaranteed birth plan. This is a unique plan in the US when we do control both sides, agency and clinic, and we have this amazing Peace of Mind program. We can, amongst other things, do something called the guaranteed birth plan. And the name reveals all the secrecy around it. We guarantee a live birth, and how we get there, we'll tell you a little bit at the end. And then we want to hear all of the questions. If there are any, do that while we speak as well, and we'll get to them in the end. And don't be shy. Like Alex, your experience is almost unprecedented. I feel like you've been here for over 15 years.
That's right.
So the point of that is to say, if anybody can answer a question or has heard a question before, it's probably Alex. So take this opportunity to really ask all of those questions, even the weird ones, the ones that make you a bit nervous. Put them in there. We probably heard it before, so we'll handle it.
Those are my favorite anyway. Weird ones.
I know, right? Those are the ones we want to hear. Exactly. How many times do you have to come to the US? We've heard that before, but we want to hear really special ones. Correct. Good point. And today you have me and Alex here with you. So Alex is going to introduce herself shortly. About myself. I'm the international manager here at Hatch and PFCLA. So Hatch is the agency and PFCLA, Pacific Fertility Center. Los Angeles is the clinic. Much more importantly, I'm a two-time father, through egg donation and surrogacy. I have 2 journeys under my belt and last journeys under my belt as well. No more kids. So my first journey was with another agency, but I used PFCLA as my clinic. And my second journey was with Hatch and PFCLA again. So that's my journey history in that sense. So I have 2 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl. The youngest is 3 months of age, so very new. And that was through the amazing Hatch program with PFCLA. So now I'm tired mainly. So let's throw it off to Alex. Alex, please introduce yourself a little bit.
Oh my goodness, that's so cute. So I'm Alex. I'm the egg donation program director. I've, as he said, been with the agency for over 15 years. This is a very special program to me. This donor program is actually the first donor program to ever exist, and one of the early surrogacy programs. So I've been able to be part of the journey for a lot of intended parents and, matching them with egg donors. That's my world, the egg donation world. As you see there, it does, it does note that I am a previous surrogate, but my journey is a little bit different. I did 3 medication rounds, 2 transfers, and neither took. As sad as it is, it does give me a lot of perspective in terms of, the sacrifice of surrogates, and it gives me a little bit of insight into intended parents, right? And how frustrating it is when your body doesn't do what you just think it should do, right? So I think it's also valuable just for you guys to know that the reason we call it a journey is because it's rare that you will get from A to Z in a straight line, right? I mean, there are going to be things that come up, and that's why having the right team behind you is going to be crucial. So that's where my previous surrogate experience comes in.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you. It's the end of the journey obviously would have been great, I'm sure, but it's all about that experience accumulated with the team. I know we have different experiences. We have one-time fathers and two-time fathers, and we have one-time surrogates, we have four-time surrogates, but the point is that you gain that insight. So I do agree with you that just that alone gives a lot of perspective. So I think you're still a hero for doing that, and doing that for your intended parents and giving that a shot, because I know with the word shot how tough that is. I've only heard, but those shots seem to be rough.
Oof, not fun. And they did end up with their baby, so it's very exciting for them, and so we're good, they're good. It did work out in the end, just not with me, unfortunately.
Well, we'll love to hear that at least. So
Yeah.
babies were created. Okay,
Absolutely.
shortly about Hatch, Alex, do you want to take it away a bit and just give us some?
Yeah, absolutely. So we touched a little bit on the fact that, we've been around for over 30 years, right? We're the first donor agency to exist. We've helped, about 8,000 parents achieve, their dream of being a parent. We have clients from all over the world. Over 50 countries are served with our program. We have a very high success rate. Success rate is a little bit tricky. When an agency tells you success rate, just note that really an agency can't give you success rate. Is more on the clinic, because at the end of the day, we're at the mercy of every doctor's protocol. But we can tell you that 99.5% of our parents walk away with a baby, right? And this is a lot due to our peace of mind packages, our rollover programs, our rematching programs. So as long as you want to keep trying, we're going to keep trying with you. We have been able to accumulate wonderful list of third-party providers, such as attorneys, right? None of our attorneys are connected to Hatch in terms of working through Hatch. They have their own law offices, their own firms. They work independently. But through all the years that we've been doing this, we've been able to really make these connections and build a really wonderful list of really, really good attorneys that, really know fertility law, which is very important. Always be on the lookout for agencies that have in-house attorneys. Not a really good sign. That's a conflict of interest. So keep an eye on that. And, we are very picky. We're very picky about our donors. We're very picky about our surrogates, clinics that we work with. Our doctors are stellar. And, we do all that we can to make sure that your candidates are as ready medically, physically, mentally, emotionally for your journey.
Yeah. And that's the great thing with having that clinic also like connected that way. So just draw from that experience. That staff is amazing. Go ahead, Alex.
So Pacific Fertility Center, actually, one of the wonderful things about us, so you guys heard a little bit about Hatch and our background, about 5 years ago, we decided to partner with a clinic. And we had a lot of options, right? A lot of clinics wanted to partner with Hatch. But we decided to go with PFCLA because we worked with their medical director for years. He's been around for decades, just like us. And all of their doctors are stellar, right? So for us, it was an easy decision to make. The beautiful part about that is that, not only do they have a brand new lab, everything is state of the art, wonderful staff, but we get to have him as our medical director, which is great for an agency to be able to have. You have sort of an insight, in terms of having those medical records pre-approved by a really good IVF doctor before we even accept a candidate to our program, being able to ask all these, intricate medical questions so we can make the right decision about the candidates that we accept. They are very experienced. They've helped over 4,000 parents through surrogacy that have achieved births, which is really big. Like I said, they were founded about over 30 years ago. They have a very high successful transfer rate, right? I mean, and again, the success rates will ultimately come down to clinics. So their rates are really good. 82% for a first transfer is really, really good. And then every transfer after that, not that technically raises your chances, but obviously it does get you closer to the goal, right? So their success rates are really good. Surrogacy focus, a lot of our intended parents, a lot of the cycles that we do are surrogacy based. So, we are really thrilled to be able to really hone in on that aspect of the journey, while we also, of course, have tons of intended parents that are doing their own, IVF cycles, or need to use an egg donor only, or, need to use both egg donor and surrogacy. So ultimately, with Pacific Fertility Center, to this day, I really feel that we made the right decision, and you would be in excellent hands with them.
Yeah, and I can agree, having my two kids through this clinic, biased, of course, not only because I work here maybe, but also because of my personal experience. I
Right.
think it's an amazing place. So thanks for walking us through that. I think the video will have intended parents kind of look at that with us if they reach out to us. We have an amazing video here showing that new lab and location that Alex talked about. That is the state of the art. Just last year, February, opened there. So we'll have that viewed sometime. Introduce quickly our little physicians here, the amazing doctors that we have.
Absolutely. So all the way to the right, I think is what you guys are seeing, is our medical director, which is Dr. Sahakian. I adore him. I mean, again, it was an easy choice for us to partner with him. He's been around for a long time. He's extremely knowledgeable. And so he's our medical director and the chief medical officer of PFCLA. Then you have Dr. Deogartis. She's stellar. I really adore her too. Really kind, really thorough, straight to the point, very honest, which is what you want in your doctor, and really strives to get you to your end goal, which is having your baby. Love her. She speaks several languages, but I'm spacing right now on which ones.
He speaks Spanish, Romanian, maybe something else
And I
as
think
well.
Portuguese is Dr. Rodi.
Yes,
So
Dr. Rose
we'll move
speaks
on to Dr.
Portuguese.
Rodi.
Yeah.
Dr. Rodi is another stellar doctor. Really like her as well. We work with her a lot. She does speak Portuguese, lots of years of experience. We also have Dr. Evans, who usually works in our Glendale location. She's stellar. I adore her. Really darling woman, very knowledgeable, very caring, and really love working with her. We have Dr. Chafkin, who usually works in the Westwood location. She's very smart. I mean, they all are, right? But she's very smart. She's very knowledgeable in the process. She likes to get into the details of things, and so she's a great source of knowledge, and she's been doing this for a long time. Stellar doctor as well. And then finally, we have Dr. Sapilian, our other Vic. That we have Vic Sahakian, and then we have Vic Sapilian. And he's stellar as well. He's really easy to speak with, really easy to converse with, very smart as well, very knowledgeable in the process, can make you feel really comfortable. And we love working with him as well. So, I mean, honestly, all of our doctors are really stellar, really top of the line. And I would trust any of them if I were to do, any medical process. I would trust any of them to do that with. And I can't say that for every doctor out there. you know, in
Yeah.
every clinic. So,
Yeah, and you work with a lot of other clinics as well.
oh yeah.
The agency side of point of view when they work with another clinic.
Mm-hmm.
Just a good point overall that Hatch and PFCLA work together for certain programs, but if you have a clinic or you prefer another clinic, nothing stopping you from working with just Hatch or just PFCLA, whatever you
Absolutely.
right. Yeah.
Absolutely. We definitely don't want to make any intended parent feel like, you know, if they already have a doctor they're working with, totally fine. We can work with that clinic, you know, as
Absolutely.
long as they know how to do third party,
Yeah.
which most of them do. There are just a few seldom ones that don't, and they'll tell you if not, and we're totally fine working with them.
Yeah, and the option to do it like all in one place, that's what we're going to discuss today and then show what that
Right.
means actually. Perfect. So let's talk about this vertical journey then. So now we talked about these two kind of options and you know a little bit better of who we are and what we do. So just to go a little bit deeper inside of the vertical journey and what that actually means is that this journey of surrogacy, egg donation, and IVF has been, I would say, quite fragmented. Alex, I think you would agree. In the past, traditionally speaking, you find an agency, hopefully they have everything there, or you go and pick out some other pieces, you go and find another clinic, and you kind of try to make that all work together in a good way.
Mhm.
Which can be a challenge. I'm sure you agree on, Alex, when you look at different
Absolutely.
agencies. So what the team did from Hatch and the whole kind of journey was that to think about what really didn't work great in these kind of journeys. Maybe a weird starting point, but that's all about improvement. And there were a couple of things that kind of stood out. So the coordination between the agency and clinic for the intended parents can be extremely stressful and kind of hard to understand. Are they communicating well? Are they communicating enough? How do I make them work better together? So that kind of coordination and making sure everybody's running and doing the right things can be a big stress on intended parents. Another thing can be the financial aspect. So looking at this journey, looking into financials, just from my own experience, my first surrogacy is extremely complicated sometimes, especially going down the route of these variable plans where you kind of pay as you go. That can be really hard to understand. If this occurs, what would that mean cost-wise? Is that covered? Is this covered? And all of that. So this is also something that was a big issue for intended parents that we also took with us. And one of the last thing is what Alex said before. Agencies do not have medical doctors in-house usually. There are no medical trained staff in that sense at an agency. So it means that the selection of a surrogate can sometimes come down to, you know, trusting that the agency has some kind of medical control and also taking the medical advice of an agency, which you really shouldn't be doing. That's the doctor's kind of work and expertise. So that was another thing that was very important in the creation of this program.
Yeah.
So basically, Hatch and PFCLA then was kind of the solution to that, to those issues. So how do we create a program where it's kind of vertical in the sense that everything exists within the same space? We're not doing this kind of horizontal thing where we're kind of picking from different pieces. Let's create a program where everything is included. So that was what we call the peace of mind program. That means that agency and clinic is all together. It means that we have all of that expertise in-house. We will utilize amazing third parties like attorneys or escrow services to kind of raise the bar on that and include that. And we do it for one fixed price. So all of our pricing is fixed. So we can say to intended parents that this will be your pricing from the beginning to the end, and we're going to cover all of this. What happens in worst case scenarios, we're still going to cover those. Because the vision of the peace of mind program and every step that this agency takes is, does this give peace of mind or does this take away from peace of mind? And we want intended parents and patients to have peace of mind with us. The last thing is the medical. So when we do a vertical journey, when you look at the Hatch surrogate, for example, just like Alex said, having a medical doctor in-house, we can say, hey, could you review these medical records for us before we accept the surrogate? An amazing thing to be able to do. My own experience of having my two surrogates be medically disqualified by Dr. Shakin, actually. Thank you so much, Dr. Shakin. A great thing, of course, to catch those things. But as an intended parent go into the journey, you look at the surrogate candidate, you get excited, you get happy, you match with her, you're even more excited. And then your doctor says no, which is a tough blow to kind of accept as an intended parent. We want to get away from that. We want medical expertise sooner. So just like Alex said, this we can do before, and actually even more. Now we do a uterus lining check even, which we will talk a little bit about later, which is even amazing as well, to be able to draw from that, you know, experience from the clinic. So those three were the main things when we created the peace of mind program to give intended parents this kind of sense of security. I know what I'm getting myself into. It's with two great teams that work together for a seamless journey. It's with the fixed price where I know the cost from beginning to the end, and I have the backup of a medical director and a medical team as soon as I can instead of waiting until after the match. So this is what we call that vertical journey and how we kind of built that experience for intended parents, because that's what we want it to be, an experience for them to go into this and have a great journey with the seamless team. So now hopefully everybody knows, that's what they mean with the vertical journey, because that word needs to an upgrade. The timeline, we won't go into too much about the exact steps of this. I think it's a great thing at a private consultation to sit down with me or Alex or somebody else from our team and talk about this in detail. By the way, I see your questions coming in. Great, just keep them coming. We're going to do them at the end. So we're going to collect all of those. So great work. But generally, if we look at the timeline, it looks something like this. So this is a general timeline from our point of view, from Hatch and PFCLA, of how does this journey more or less work. So what we usually do in a vertical journey is that we want to make sure, because of the matching times of surrogates, which in any agency today that has some kind of respectable screening process is going to be a bit longer than the embryo creation stage. So we usually do things at the same time. Most intended parents will get on the match list at the same time as they are creating embryos to kind of work off some of that matching time until you have great embryos created and frozen at PFCLA or any other clinic. The egg donation part, Alex, I mean, could take more or less about 6 to 7 months. I'm sure you had like process when it's a bit quicker as well, but I know it's also impacted by a lot of what ifs and what happens. Any comment on that kind of here?
Yeah, absolutely. So exactly the way that a lot of people make this timing work is they sign up on the surrogacy side. In the meantime, they work on finding their donor. The donor search itself can take a month or two, just, really figuring out who's going to be the right fit, getting those pre-approvals from the doctor, things like that. Once you're matched, from match to retrieval cycle takes about 3 to 4 months to complete on average. So by the time you have those eggs retrieved and then they'll create the embryos, you'll be so much closer to that match time with your surrogate. So yeah, when it's all said and done, about 6 to 7 months for your egg donor process. And then account, for possibly if your donor cycle does cancel, it's not unheard of. Usually it's genetics. Maybe they're not a genetic compatible match for you. And we find that out through the match process. Through the cycle process after you're officially matched. Then, we have really great rollover programs. We just basically roll over and start over with a new donor. And the beautiful thing about the peace of mind packages is that it is peace of mind. You don't have to worry about anything. We just absorb it all and we just start over.
Yeah, exactly. So those step-by-steps are kind of described there of starting the donor search. You're on the match list. This is ticking forward. You match with your donor, like Alex said. We do those screenings, including genetic carrier screening for the donor and the semen source. And then if everything looks good, it's to contracting phase, right? An agreement. And then she will take some medications and retrieve the eggs, of course, create embryos with one of our amazing doctors and do pre-implantation genetic testing for look for any genetic abnormalities. Clinics or agencies have different requirements on embryos. It could be, possible success rate, or it could be number of embryos PGT tested, etc. So this is something that's good to discuss with the agency. At Hatch, we have 2 PGTA tested embryos as our minimum requirement for a surrogate match, even though you can get on the match list whenever you want and wait for that. And then we have the match. So every agency will be different depending on the loads of different factors of their matching time. So it's good to discuss that with the agency. You match with your surrogate. It's a bit different from every agency. We do more of a hand-curated approach, looking at legal fit, individual fit, and all of that. Other agencies might do just next available surrogate, next available IPs, less of a good idea, I feel like. Then the surrogate is screened. This is a clinical screening to the clinic that you're working with. If this is PFCLA, the doctor has already reviewed those medical records, right? The vertical journey. So the medical doctor has been in there, reviewed all of that. So it's a bit quicker we've experienced than with outside clinics. We usually talk about 6 to 8 weeks with an outside clinic. And the intended parents are knocking on our doors or our emails about, when's the next step, when's the next step, but it's not out of our control with another clinic, which is important to understand. With our own clinic, we can usually expedite that a bit because we've done some work before with our surrogates and donors. And then legal work, medications, and then the embryo transfer. So this is a good general example of how this process looks with Hatch and PFCLA. There's variations to this. What do you want as an intended parent for your match? Could impact that. Do you have any of those rematches, for example, or new donors? But this is a good general description of the timeline and step-by-step process.
Mhm.
All right. I hope that is good for everybody. I know there's so much more to explore there, but 30-minute webinar, so we're gonna that's good enough for this time. But keep asking us questions. Um, this won't be too long. I think here we just kind of mentioned some of the key players in this journey. I think many of them will make sense for you. There's this whole kind of village that needs to do this together. You have your legal team, the clinic, and the egg donor, of course, insurance experts to advise both you and the agency about insurance issues, surrogates insurance, etc. The intended parents themselves, of course, very important, but also their family and friends. Some people have very much involved family and friends in this journey, and others are kind of on their own. Both are okay. The agency, of course, to take care of all the coordination, other bits and pieces, and the surrogate and the escrow. So the escrow is, for us international intended parents, a little bit different. We don't necessarily understand escrow in the beginning, but this is where the funds will be kept. When you get to a certain stage, you deposit basically what you need for the rest of the journey. It's not spent, it's kept safe in an escrow account, and the agency will do monthly payments to the surrogate, to the legal team, insurance, whatever needs to be paid to get you to the end of that journey. So this is just a bit of showing who's involved there, and we usually say that it takes a village, right, to make this happen. So I love this. I googled this,
Me too.
and it's a nice little way of really putting that into perspective. Like, it really comes down to having all these pieces work together. So it's all from donor on one end, you have the legal team, all of these bits and pieces kind of spread out in this way. The great thing is that, sure, you have everything in place, but what is an issue sometimes when we experience the non-vertical journey is kind of like these questions, right? Who is holding this journey together? Who's really knowledgeable about all of these bits and pieces? Does everybody know what's happening? Is everybody communicating? Are they communicating efficiently with each other? Because if you have a lot of miscommunication, you kind of lose things in between. You drop the ball between agency and clinic, etc. So that's a lot of the things that can occur. Also, what do I need to take responsibility for as the intended parent, right? This coordination between agency and clinic. And also, it's just everybody covering their base, right? When you do this kind of fragmented journey, it's easy to get to the point of, oh, that's not our responsibility, that's the clinic, or we won't do that because that's not our fault. So we want to make sure we can create a journey where we're not blaming each other for this. We're trying to work together to make this better for the intended parents. And I think that's a good thing with the Peace of Mind program and vertical journey, which you will discuss, Alex. Coordination, relationship, communication, that's where the real values are going to come out of this vertical journey. So this kind of dissonance or like issues in between can easily occur. And what we wanted to create is more of this kind of journey, right? Everything is kind of collected together so we can have more oversight, more control, and all of that. So this is something that's really important for us to have there. So that's the idea of solving those kind of issues with the program. So we have Hatch on one side, we have PFCLA on the other side to work together to make this happen. Okay, Alex, talk us through some of the benefits of this vertical journey from different perspectives, right? Coordination, financial, and medical. So let's start with coordination first.
Absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, one of the nice things is that you get to do it all under one roof, right? I mean, everything is done cohesively. The communication is faster. And again, repeating the word, but it is cohesive. You don't have a lot of, miscommunication or misunderstanding or not knowing what's going on from one side to the next. We're all in it together. So, for example, if we work with an outside clinic, we may not have, someone's cell phone, for example, or nurse or something like that, where if something does come up, we can communicate directly. So that's one thing. We do communicate and collaborate every day. We have multiple systems in place to be able to do that quickly and efficiently so that there's no lag and wait time. I mean, at the end of the day, some things do take time.
Yeah.
So patience is definitely more than a virtue when you're going through this type of process. It's almost a must, but we do communicate very well. Standards and protocols are clear, right? Again, here we go with the cohesiveness, just making sure that everyone is on the same page. And we don't want to cut corners, right? I mean, as much as you want to rush the process, you want to make sure that everything is done the way it's supposed to be done. So making sure that we hold each other accountable it's important on that. Transparency, clarity between agency and clinic. Same thing there. I think that speaks for itself, making sure that we can communicate if problems arise, right? If
Yeah.
processes or systems need to be improved, we can all come together agency and clinic and really improve those things, which you don't really, you can't really do that with when that partnership is not there. So you're
Yeah,
kind of just at the mercy of each party, just hoping that everybody gets it and that they
exactly.
can get to the end of the journey. So at the end of the day, all of these components are going to minimize the risk of miscommunication and unknown factors, because again, that communication is going to be constant, transparent, and clear amongst all parties.
Yeah,
We're here to support you guys. We're here to make sure that you don't have to worry about all the stressful stuff. That's why you're engaging an agency. That's why, I mean, the clinical side, obviously you have to utilize for the clinical purposes, but the agency is there to make sure that you get from A to Z through that journey with all the possible things that can come up. And believe me, a lot of things can come up, but we can get you through it without it being your burden. We will make sure that everything gets done smoothly so that you have minimal stress.
yeah.
Not
Uh,
zero, but minimal.
No, definitely. We usually always tell
Impossible.
parents that you will do some work. Like even with the best agency out there, best clinic, and we count ourselves amongst some of them, you definitely have your work like laid out for you. So, but it's all about, how do we make it enjoyable as possible? And I
Yeah.
like what you said, Alex. No clinic is perfect. No agency is perfect. There's definitely things to improve, but how you can come together with an agency and clinic that's actually the same company is a different thing. When you have to you can't tell another clinic to, hey, we should improve this process of yours and ours. Like, how do we do that? That's a long thing to work out. So I like that part for sure.
Yeah.
How about medical? Tell us a little bit about like what benefits can we expect from a medical point of view?
Absolutely. So physician oversight is really big because again, agencies don't typically have, that direct connection with really good doctors that can advise and that you can ask really quickly something simple about a donor or a surrogate to just make sure that they are right, fit medically for you to even accept them into the program. So, there's a lot there that really helps on the front end of the process, just having that and throughout the entire journey. That is really, really big. The medical regulations and standards do spill over to the agency. Most agencies just handle, coordination, all the paperwork, payments, things like that. But at the end of the day, to have a little bit of that medical aspect on the agency side is something that's really valuable. So I think that partnership is really key on that, to make sure that everybody's on the same page and is doing all the right things to make sure that at the end of the day, your donor and your surrogate are being taken care of, because that's another very important thing, that we want to focus on the experience, not only for you as the parent, but also for the surrogate and the donor. All egg donor and surrogate medical records are reviewed pre-match, right? So obviously, a surrogate will always have medical records to be reviewed because even if they're a first-time surrogate, they have had their own children. So they have to have had at least one full-term uncomplicated pregnancy of their own. So those records are always going to be reviewed. And if they're previous surrogates, those records will be reviewed as well. For egg donors, if they're previous donors, their records will be reviewed by your doctor for pre-approval. If they're a first-time donor, obviously they haven't done a cycle before, there are no records to review, but we do preliminary testing, such as AMH testing and AFC if it's required by the doctor, which that's something that not a lot of agencies can offer either. So
Yeah.
that's really, really nice. Medical staff making medical assessments, not agency staff, right? So while there's a lot of benefit and a lot of that we can lean on clinically as the agency, we cannot make any medical calls. So we always make sure that your doctor ultimately makes the final call. We don't ever want to overstep that boundary. Really important to not push that. When you're being presented with a surrogate match, you know that she has been already, those medical records have already been pre-approved by an outstanding IVF doctor who has over 30 years of experience. Not only that, but we're also going to make sure that your particular doctor pre-approves before we present to you. We don't want to get you excited about someone and then say, okay, well, now we're going to send her medical records and let's cross our fingers that that passes. No, we're going to do that before, on the back end, before we present to you, so that by the time we present to you, you can get excited about her profile and just make sure that it's a good fit and then go from there.
Yeah.
this touches on that a little bit more. So your IVF doctor, again, has already pre-approved your surrogate records. And this is going to eliminate a lot of the reasons why, you know, a cycle may cancel in the future. Sometimes agencies will match you with a surrogate, you know, they'll sell that surrogate to you, they'll match you, and then the surrogate will go in and may not pass medical screening for very simple things that should have been obvious from the beginning, right? So these are things that, because of experience, because of the amount of time and you know, experience that we have in the process, we know what to look for quite enough, even clinically, to know who is going to be a good candidate or not. Medical records reviews, look, it takes time. It takes time because you're at the mercy of first getting all full medical records. One thing that I do always brag about is that we always get direct medical records directly from the source, meaning the hospitals and doctors that surrogate has delivered through. We don't ever accept records directly from a surrogate because things can be omitted, right? As much as you want to trust everyone, things can be taken out, and it could be crucial to know. So we always make sure that we get those records directly from the source. And hospitals, they're slow, right? So it can take weeks and weeks for us to get that done. But once we get those done, we will have our medical director review. But again, patience, patience, patience. I can't stress that word enough. And then we do the uterine lining check. This is, nobody else is doing this. I mean, when we say that we really want this to be peace of mind and eliminate any possible issue that could arise later, we do see a lot of, or we used to see a lot of cycles, you know, cancel during transfer because maybe her lining is just not responding properly to medications. Maybe she had an IUD for a specific amount of time, you know, different factors that can come up. So us doing a lining check in a mock cycle, specifically with those surrogates that have had an IUD, for example, this is unprecedented because we are doing something and we're taking the burden of doing that process so that we know that by the time she gets to your transfer, we know that she's already, her body already has reacted really well to the medical process that's ahead. So that right there is, I love it. It's really great.
I think it's amazing. And I think you might never kind of understand how amazing that is until you've either actually went through the process and succeeded, but even better if you haven't, and you realize how important it is with having that uterus lining, that reaction from the body, that kind of cooperation from the body, and how important that is. So it's something I wish I could have looked at a profile in my first journey and said, I know a medical doctor has reviewed this record. I even know that their uterus lining has been, you know, checked, or we've done a mock cycle. Amazing peace of mind that I think it's hard to understand until you're done with the journey. But that's great. So financial, quickly run us through this to Alex a little bit.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there are a lot of benefits, right? I mean, the main one that I can just say plain and simple is that you know where you're paying from the beginning. There are no surprises later. There's no coming to you and say, well, we need to replenish escrow. We need to, you know, more travel, whatever the case is. None of that happens. We offer a single fixed fee, which is really, really good, right? Again, no surprises. It includes everything you need, especially if you do the all-inclusive clinic, agency, everything under one roof, the actual peace of mind vertical journey, because everything that's involved, and I mean absolutely everything, with very small variations, which maybe, you know, newborn insurance, that obviously you have to acquire once the baby's born. Actually, you'll get that before the baby's born, and we'll walk you through all of that. But everything else, everything that has to do with the journey is covered under one fee. Lots of baked in discounts are already in there, you know, medications, PGTA testing, unlimited transfers, unlimited travel for donor and surrogate. You know, I mean, my gosh, if you had to, you know, be rematched with a donor, you know, that would be at no additional cost. If you had to be rematched with a surrogate at no additional cost, no matter what the situation, right? Even if, God forbid, she was pregnant and there was a loss and we've been making payments, they've been getting compensation, they've been getting reimbursements, all of that, we're going to absorb it, we're going to eat it, and we're just going to start over and start, you know, and truly not charge you anything extra for that and give you priority even. the unlimited items, again, unlimited embryo transfers. Not only are you considering how many times she has to travel down for each transfer, right? However many embryos you have, that's how many transfers you have
Mm.
available. Every fee that she gets every time she has to get ready for a transfer, when she starts medications, on the day of the transfer, she gets a fee. The medications themselves, that adds up like crazy.
Yeah.
The procedure of the transfer itself, right? The clinical procedure, all of that being unlimited is, I mean, that alone is peace of mind. Additional $10,000 discount when working with PSCLA as your clinic. These are, again, baked in discounts in different packages that you can take advantage of.
Yeah.
No fees are to be determined, right? I mean, we really have no fine print, no exclusions. They're just limits, right, on certain things that are just common sense, such as compensation, right? Obviously, our packages cover base compensation for donor and surrogate. If you go with a donor with a higher fee than the base, then obviously you have to add that difference. Same thing on the surrogate side. But all of these things are very much explained to you in detail before you ever commit to anything. So, I mean, honestly, for that to be the fine print, it's not even, it's not hidden, it's discussed, you have it there, and that's it. It's minimal.
Yeah.
So transparency is huge for us, and making sure that you really know what you're getting into and no surprises down the line. I mean, really, peace of mind is the idea here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Perfect. So let's talk a little bit about peace of mind. Alex, you covered a lot of this. So expecting from day one, right?
Yeah.
Variable costs included, etc. So we can leave that at that. I think you did a great job explaining that. So let's quickly just talk about the guaranteed birth plan before we go into your questions. So why do we want to discuss this program is because there are many programs out there. Some of them are variable, some are fixed, some have what we have, some don't. But something that's unique for us specifically in terms of the vertical journey and everything is this guaranteed birth plan. Agencies like to use the word guaranteed for many different things. But if we talked about a guaranteed birth of a live birth without additional payments to get you to that end result, whatever it takes, this is unique to us. This does not exist anywhere else. And we're proud to say that. And we try to never, say too much. We don't want to make guarantees we can't hold. But this is something I'm kind of patting a little bit of backs on, if we can say it ourselves, because this is an amazing thing to have if it's the right fit for you. So what is the guaranteed birth plan? So we're going to continue on everything we spoke about today, from compensation to legal expenses. We talked about unlimited transfers, whatever you can imagine. It's in this program included until you have a live birth. So we're going to keep on going. You don't need a new surrogate or donor, like Alex said, it's covered. A new embryo transfer, it's covered. Agency and clinic. We cover all lost wages. We cover health and life insurance for the surrogate, complications insurance for the donor, unlimited travel, and uniquely enough, all IVF clinical costs, all medications, genetic testing. We're not stopping at the agency. Everything IVF related for donor, surrogate, and semen source is also included. So this is something, yeah, go ahead, Alex.
So I just want to touch on something, because another great thing about this package is usually packages won't include, especially when they're linked to a clinic, partner clinic, they don't include any outside monitoring costs, like clinics that the surrogate or the donor may have to go that are local to them. Those usually aren't included. We do cover that. Also, the egg retrievals, I just want to make a quick distinction where it says unlimited. Just so you guys are aware, it doesn't mean that when you choose a donor, she says, I'm going to do unlimited retrievals for you. It just means that if for whatever reason you do run out of embryos, you're with your surrogate, transfers aren't working, now you don't have any more embryos, you're then able to do another donor cycle, whether it's the same donor, if she's available, medically cleared to do so, or a different donor altogether at no additional cost. This one's huge, guys. I mean, it happens, right? And again, the only thing that you would pay is the overage on compensation if above that base. Sorry,
Exactly.
just wanted to
No,
throw
no,
that
don't
in.
be sorry. It's great information. And it's totally great and totally right, because people do ask you, oh, so she'll come back later. We never know,
Right,
right? She might,
right.
she might not, but it doesn't matter. We can have it utilized same or other donor, no additional agencies fee, no additional clinical fees. We just go ahead again. So all of that is in there. And this is not so much to go into the details of this program. I think it's just to show you a little bit of, when you do have that opportunity of creating a vertical journey and a program like the Peace of Mind program, you can start to promise a lot of amazing things to intended parents. And the promises are not made easily. So when we say guaranteed, it's because we know that we can do all of this until we're done, until we have a live birth. I like to include myself in all the parts. I'm like,
Exactly.
we
We're
have
all
something.
going to have the baby.
Yes, we're having babies together.
Exactly.
Okay, so if you are interested in this more, obviously in all other things as well, you can speak to us and meet with us, set up a call. You can email me directly if you want to, if it's egg donation and surrogacy and you're international, or Alex if it's egg donation itself. Easiest is to go to hatch.us and fill out the form. It will automatically poof, 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 do the little magic and send you in the right direction. So that's the easiest thing to do. All right, I'm excited for the questions. Let's see what
Me
we got.
too.
This is the best part, actually. So let me see if I can pull that up here without stopping everything I'm
I can
doing.
read them to you. I have them up if you want.
Let's just try and I just need to see them as well, just to be
Okay.
able to read them through a bit. So let's do this. Usually works. There we go. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So let's see that part. Okay. Hopefully we can't see all the questions and names, but I think that's only for us, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So the first question, I'll pass over to you, Alex, if there's
Yeah,
more as well.
absolutely.
Can baby get the U.S. citizenship? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every child. I mean, it's not really the point of the journey itself. It's kind of more of just a effect of it, like on the side, that every child born in the U.S. is going to become a U.S. citizen or have the right to be a U.S. citizen. So it's kind of like it happens because it's the child is born there, but it's not
Right.
like the point of the journey.
Yeah.
We do have a medical need for surrogacy at Hatch, for example. So we're looking at who medically needs help of our surrogates rather than those things. But totally correct.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
do I need to pay all the fees at once or step by step? So we do have a payment plan for all of our plans. It could be more or less payments, like 3 payments up to 5 payments, depending on which plan you have. So there is a span of payments from month 1, match list and clinic if you're working with both sides, until before the surrogate takes meds, which is the last payment, which Alex said is made to escrow through Hatch. So there is a payment plan, so it's not upfront. Some things you should pay for upfront, some things you should not, until we've done what we said we would do. So there is a plan for that for sure. Alex, just jump in if you want to add any to this
Yeah,
question.
no, I mean, you got that right. We take the whole fee and we split it up into payments, and there's a timeline for them. It's not like you can make, it's not a payment plan, right? I mean, there are certain payments that have to be fulfilled to reach or to start certain processes, but there is a split and there are some gaps in time.
Yeah,
So it's not so
exactly.
stressful.
Exactly. So like the peace of mind programs, for example, I think it's up towards 14 months, depending exactly on when people
Right.
match, etc. So there definitely is a span. Like the full payment would have usually been made within 12 to 14 months, more or less. So that's a good way to see it.
Yeah.
Do we guarantee avoiding problems with egg, sperm, and baby? I mean, this is a good question, really, but it's
Yeah.
just like there's only so much that we can do, right? There's only
Right.
so much in the control of the doctors, of the testing. Science today is amazing, but it doesn't mean that we can avoid all issues. During the pregnancy, the surrogate goes to her OBGYN visits. She does ultrasound, prenatal tests, some non-invasive, some invasive if there's reasons for that. So I would say as much as we can with science, with agencies,
Right.
clinic doctors, we do look at that. Can we guarantee everything? No. We can guarantee a live birth. We can. Can we guarantee
Right.
no issues at all? Nobody can.
No.
One day, hopefully, there will be a guaranteed healthy birth plan. I mean, that would be amazing, but science is not there yet. So it's not
Right.
Hatch lagging behind or PFCLA or any other agency in clinic. The
Right.
science is not there to say guaranteed healthy live birth plan.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
Keep in mind, though, there are a lot of safety guards along the way, right?
Yeah.
There's testing that's going to be done on the intended parent, genetic testing. There's going to be testing on the sperm. There's going to be testing on the donor, genetic testing, making sure you're a good compatible match. There's going to be testing on the surrogate, testing on the embryos,
Yeah.
testing everywhere, left and right. So, as much as you can, there are a lot of safety guards there.
I agree. Totally
Never
right.
a guarantee.
Yeah. And if you look generally at, just having a baby, through what we would call maybe the traditional way or whatever, I would say that there are much less insights into the compatibility between, egg and semen source and the embryo quality, etc. So there's much we can avoid. Absolutely. We just can't guarantee to avoid it. We can say that this is not going to be there, but the other stuff we don't know exactly. How long is the project cycle? How long can an embryo be created? I love interpreting certain things. It's hard in writing, right? See if you can maybe just clarify that question a bit, if you don't mind. an embryo can be frozen for a long time, if that's the question, very long
For years.
years.
Yeah.
I had my second baby in 2024, and I had my first baby in 2020. That was embryos from 2018. So just that gives you a little bit of a sense. But I also know a fun fact that the embryo that was frozen the longest and was a live birth was actually up towards 25 years, I think. So that's very interesting. I hope that's true as well. Sometimes it's like you just find an information somewhere. Don't quote me on that. But embryo being frozen is not an issue. And that's done all the time. And please, if you want to know about the project cycle, kind of clarify if you don't mind, and I'll try to answer that. If we have an egg donor and a surrogate in mind, what does the timeline look like? And is this also something Hatch and PFCLA can assist with? So this is kind of like bring your own donor or bring your own surrogate, right? Do you want to do your bring your own donor part?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, no matter what, you have a donor in mind. If you want Hatch to help facilitate, all the coordination and everything else, and you trust us to make sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to do, they would have to go through the same exact process as any other donor. They would have to apply, go through our screening process, be approved or not. They may or may not qualify. Same thing for the surrogate, right? So while in theory, you may think it can speed things up, it may not necessarily do so. It could in perfect scenario, but they will still have to go through the entire process, surrogate as well, apply, go through everything that any surrogate that applies would have to go through. And this is just to ensure that, you are safe and that the donor and the surrogate are safe and that, everything is going to go smoothly. So.
Yeah, I think the biggest time saving aspect of that is that in the initial portion, like you said, Alex, you can't save much time. Like we have to screen every donor and surrogate the same way. But if they do get accepted, you're not going to be on the match list and wait for a surrogate.
Exactly.
So, yeah, but we do accept you coming with your own donor and surrogate. And if they are cleared, we're not matching them with anybody else, of course. Like that's the donor and surrogate. So that's the big time saving aspect, that you don't have to do that waiting. But the agency is going to do all the same work, all the same, because we're not an agency to accept the surrogate because you brought her and say, okay, well, you take the risks then. We're going to say we're going to screen her the same way, and we're going to work with her if we can. So we're going to do the same thing. So if you look at the packages, etc., it's all the same. Very welcome to bring your own donor and surrogate, because we have to screen them the same way and do the exact same process. It's for the exact same program that we would with any other agency or any other donor or surrogate. So yes, we can assist in that sense. Step-by-step payments. We talked about the US citizenship. How do we know if the surrogate mother is living a healthy lifestyle, free from smoking and alcohol during the pregnancy? This is a great question and a very complex question, I feel like, as well.
Yes.
Where do we start? We start a little bit with, this is really a good question in a consultation, just like putting it out there, because it takes some time to answer. But really quickly, looking at the screening process. I know you're asking during pregnancy, but the best way to make sure a surrogate is in a great shape to do this journey, mentally, physically, right motivation, is to do a proper pre-screening of the surrogate. Once again, I know that's not what you're asking for. You're asking for during pregnancy, but it's still true that spending these crucial weeks and months with those surrogates, going into everything from psychological evaluations to medical reviews to what do we have? Legal, we have criminal background.
My gosh.
There's too much.
The pre-screening process in terms of the intake team, right? All the calls and meetings that they have with them, they get to know their families, their spouses, video house tours, all these different things, lifestyles. And then don't forget that once you're matched with your surrogate, you will have your own case manager that'll be that one point of contact through the entire journey. And they're constantly in touch with your surrogate. Not to mention something that I always brag about is that our entire surrogacy team, they're all previous surrogates themselves. So that brings an element of personal touch and personal knowledge and experience and care. Right? Because they've gone through it themselves, so they know what to look for. They know, how to handle certain situations, and our surrogates can relate to their case manager on a surrogate level, which is very special.
Yeah. And all of that pre-screening, and then afterwards as well, like Alex said, there is a team around this surrogate. So even if she has, she needs additional psychological support, we can connect that in there as well. Which she has a support group of previous hatch surrogates, for example, that she can meet both online but also in physical meetings, actually, which is very cool. So it's all about the continual support, but also know that she's going to her doctor. She, sometimes people, I feel like they think that we, release the surrogate from PFCLA care, and it's like, hopefully it works out great. Hatch is still heavily involved. She will go to her doctor still. She will go to OBGYN visits, ultrasounds, etc. Things can be picked up, not only by our staff, but, by the OBGYN as well in the hospitals. But
More testing.
Or testing, exactly. Or testing is also an option. Some surrogates will, admit to that. Some won't. It doesn't mean that they have something to hide if they don't. It's all about, creating trust with you and your surrogate.
Absolutely.
That's the important part. So there's, transparency is always the key at this agency and clinic. So we transparently say that we are not 24/7 with your surrogate. That's the reality of surrogacy. It's an independent journey, but how we make sure she's a great candidate, that involves every aspect of her life you can imagine: social, home environment, criminal, etc. So we make sure that we have great candidates motivated by the right things, and they are not in this for anything else than a safe, happy birth. They are homebodies. They love to, be with their families. They have a social system around them. So there's a lot of things we can do, but the reality is that it's built on trust as well. So ask us in a consultation. We can go a little bit deeper inside of our screening process. I think that will help a lot as well.
Just really quickly, we may have missed the question before that, which is, are all eggs same price or different? Real quick answer to that. Our standard donor compensations range anywhere from 10,000 and go up from there, on average between 10 and 20,000. But that's what you're looking at. 10,000 is the starting for a first-time donor, and then goes up from there.
Yep, totally correct. All right, we've reached the full hour, more or less. So I think this is a good spot to say goodbye.
The last one is funny.
Oh,
we can't tell you that.
Okay, all right. The last one is funny. Now we have to say what it is, but just there. So we have a question: if there's a Hollywood movie stars eggs in there. So you never know what you're going to find. The best way is to go inside of the database. We actually don't. If Angelina Jolie would donate her eggs,
oh my gosh,
we would love that. But we have amazing women, young and older as well, but amazing women that donate their eggs there. So you can register cost-free if you're looking for egg donation and or surrogacy. You just go to the website and you can actually register for the database. So just put in whatever you're looking for: donor, surrogate. You can register and you can have full access. Alex and her team is amazing. If you have any questions on donors, we assign donor coordinators after we have an initial consultation. So set up a call with us. We're very nice and friendly. Hopefully, I would think so. So I want to thank all of you. Alex, thank you. You're in Spain even on a semi-vacation work.
Melting, guys. It's so hot.
It's amazing. I'm in
you.
Sweden, so I'm not gonna. I'm envious of you. So I hope everybody learned something. I appreciate you all being here, taking time out of your lives. I want to say best of luck on all of these journeys you're kind of researching and kind of commencing, and let us know if we can do anything to help.
Good luck,
Thank you so much. Stay safe out there. Okay. Bye bye.